Herzlich willkommen zu Blasto Blasto, einem Airsoft-Podcast der Stormriders.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. As you heard in the intro, my guest today is Ambo. Ambo is one of our foreign legionnaires from Germany, a longtime community member and a good buddy of mine. And today we're going to talk about gear preparation and analysis. In particular, sort of how Ambo goes and looks at his kit for airsoft games and modifies them or thinks about how they're going to apply, and also from the lens of thinking about how you're also going to build your own airsoft kit over time, because we know everyone starts somewhere. You start playing airsoft in jeans and a hoodie, and eventually you build your collection, and a lot of that comes from what's fun and what's cool to use, and what makes you happy, which is great. But for us in particular, we often think about how to build our kit for good performance, to maximize our effectiveness on the field. And so with that comes a little bit of critical thinking, and how people go about doing that critical thinking, and indeed how I have gone about doing that in my own career. I mean, playing airsoft, I should say. It varies, and so Ambo has a pretty analytical way. We were talking a little bit about it before the show, but I'm really excited to get his take on it, to have a conversation with you guys about that. So, Ambo, thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Sure, it's a pleasure, man. Love being back, and let's just get right to it, right?
Yeah. So, and I'm just curious, before we get into sort of where you are right now with your thinking with respect to gear, like how has your own perspective over kit evolved over time since you started playing?
Oh, good question. I mean, if I go back a really long time, so my first sort of airsoft kit, I was around 14. 14 is like the lowest age you can play airsoft at all in Germany, basically. And back then, I really wanted to have like a black vest,
Hmm.
like those old school black vests, because I was so much into Stargate, and I mean, I still love the show. Um, but then I went with G36 instead of an MP5 or P90, because basically you could not get any G36 or MP5 or P90 for like under 18. Um, but yeah, so that was more or less my start. And also something where I think a lot of other people start: surplus gear.
Hmm.
Like I got myself a Bundeswehr field jacket, Bundeswehr pants, and flag torn. And yeah, I think surplus is a good way to start, but it also has its drawbacks. I mean, there's this old joke: your rifle's always made by the cheapest company,
Hmm.
and so it's surplus gear. It has its ups and downs.
And how did you sort of, what changed for you where like you were using this kit and the Stargate stuff notwithstanding, so using
Yeah,
all this gear, like what sort of changed in your airsofting that you're like, okay, wait a minute, I need to
um,
change what I'm doing now?
yeah. I think that came when, like, shortly after I turned 18, I bought my first like real airsoft gun, because those you can get at 14 are like limited to maximum 0.5 joules and everything. And I bought myself a vest by, like, it was sort of like a sort of Rhodesian Recon vest with a back plate, similar to maybe the Tasmanian Tiger Mark II, um, but by like some cheap airsoft company.
Hmm.
And I played in that thing a few times, and I just realized, okay, like the straps, they constantly change, and I can't get them into one position, and the thing is uncomfortable. And if I run it just as a chest rig, it's like it's moving and it's flopping around. But if I run it with the plate, then I run into a strap issue again, etc. And basically, what I did back then, I did not analyze really what my issues were. I just realized there were issues,
Hmm.
and I started to buy other stuff. And I bought like a belt kit, a big one with a yoke, because back then, that was in like 2016, 17. Um, yeah, I really started in 2014 when I turned 18. So yeah, 15, 16, 17, somewhere around those years. Um, Novridge was getting really popular.
Mm-hmm.
And he always talked about playing with only a belt kit. And I thought, hey, that's a smart idea. It's light, it's mobile. But what I did was basically I bought a relatively cheap belt kit again because teenager, like late teenager, early 20s,
Mm-hmm.
didn't have much money.
Yeah.
And I bought a cheap belt kit again, and I was unhappy again. And then I bought myself a somewhat pricey plate carrier. And at first, I also was unhappy with that. But then I put plates in it. And then I realized, okay, with the plates that it's meant to carry, like only rubber plates, so nothing heavy, but still, like if you have the plates with the structure, okay, now it's more comfortable to wear, but also it's still like it's a plate carrier, it's big, it's bulky, and um, a lot of the things I bought in the past was like, oh, I want to have this thing, but that thing is the cheap alternative. I'm going to go with that, and then I wasn't happy, and so that's how it started with getting gear for me. And looking back, um, if I had bought the gear I have now, one, I wouldn't have an entire like industrial storage shelf. So, well, not the really big ones, but like one of those heavy duty storage shelves many people have in like their basements, etc., full of airsoft gear, 70% of which I don't use.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm trying selling it at the moment, but no one's wants to buy it because who wants like an 8-year-old cheap Chinese plate carrier? Like, who wants that?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, if I had gone with the things I use now, um, then I would have spent a lot less money and would have been a lot happier in the meantime.
Yeah, it's interesting, hey,
And
that it's something that, we've said about on the show before, you buy once, you cry once type of situation.
yeah,
But it's
yeah,
it in a lot of ways, it's hard to know what you should be buying, buying once versus
yeah,
because I remember, when I switched from using a plate carrier, which I'd been using for, over a decade playing airsoft, and then decided to go to a chest rig. I I didn't know that I was going to like that. So what did I do? I bought, a cheap like a reproduction Chinese chest rig for like $40.
yeah,
And the straps on it broke almost immediately. And I was like, well, this sucks. But like you were saying, like I was not happy with that. But of course I wasn't because it wasn't very good. But then once I got a chest rig that was good, then I'm like, okay, well, this is actually not too bad. And the same thing, I didn't make this mistake with belt kit because when I did go for a belt, I'm like, okay, this time, like I'm 40 years
yeah,
old, like I have a real job, I can afford to spend a bit of money on real kit, and
yeah,
so I got a really good belt setup, and lo and behold, I'm like, well, this is great. Well, no wonder because it's not like a $30 belt; it's close to
yeah,
$300 belt. But, not regardless. So I totally take your point, but it can definitely be daunting, and especially when you consider the average beginner airsofter too, they are like we were when we started, when you're in your late teens, early 20s, you're not full of money. And so how you determine where you're going to invest that money is can definitely really be a challenge. And I think it also depends on where you're playing, right? Like
yeah,
you are playing your local games, but like you're also doing border war and stuff like that, which is very because we hear this a lot in airsoft, like, oh, you have to modify your kit for the mission or whatever. But what that mission is varies greatly depending on
yeah,
where you play. Like we were talking about this, you and I, on the lead up to this episode, like how Matt will go through that process playing at like a CQB Speedsoft field is going to be vastly different than how you are going to approach that for your games, right?
yeah. Um, Honestly, before we get into that, one funny anecdote about my starter gear. I've already mentioned the Tasmanian Tiger Mark II chest rig, which I
Mhm.
now have one, and I absolutely love it, and it's my go-to chest rig for big Milton games. Back then, when I was freshly 18, I wanted to buy one, and I wanted to buy it in like coyote or khaki.
Mhm.
And I wrote with a few guys on forum. They were like, "A good rig, but don't go in khaki, because here in Germany, in the woods, that's like very visible. And um, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna take one in OD, and then I saw the cheap Chinese vest that was similar to PT, and I bought that one because it was an OD and cheaper.
Hmm.
Looking back, if I had bought the TT, which was like $50 more, maybe 100, maximum 100, I would have been far happier with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And it's so it like,
And
it's impossible to know, right? It's easy for us to in hindsight to
yeah,
look back, but I also I really take your point about like the shelves full of gear that's just cheap that you can't offload. Like I have so many
yeah,
pouches, so many things that like either they'll end up in an incinerator or like I'll take them to my grave, but no one is going to get to take those off me. It's just not gonna happen. So let's get into sort of the spreadsheet or analytics portion that you have been working on and sort of your sort of process with respect to what gear evolution kind of looks like and how you sort of critically think about when it's
yeah.
time to look for something new. So I think the best place for us to start, I mean, you probably will agree, is okay, you're a beginner. You
At the
have,
top,
you're
yeah.
right, like you have
You're
nothing other than your goggles, your replica, maybe boots if you're, if you were very intrepid, and pair of gloves, right? Let's call it that, right? And of course your iPro, like we said goggles, but like any iPro, whatever that is. What is, you know, aside from the like I want a new gun or the cool shiny aspect because that's also true, right? I mean, you see something.
yeah,
It's like when
obviously,
you were
obviously,
starting, you're like, oh, I want to do the Stargate LARP thing. Okay, cool. But that part
yeah.
aside, purely from a functional standpoint, right? What's your first analysis point as a beginner when you're thinking about the kit?
I think the very first question, and that's actually not even only for beginners, but also I'd say intermediate players. Like I'm playing now for 11 years. I don't need to think that question again because I know the answer already.
Hmm.
The first thing you have to ask yourself is, do you actually enjoy airsoft?
Yeah.
On like a really fundamental level, not on a, oh, this, like the last game, I didn't have fun because XYZ. The question is, do you in general enjoy airsoft? Let's say you're a beginner, you've played now 3, 4 games with rental kit or kit from your friends, or maybe you bought your first gear, like we just said, and you gotta ask yourself, okay, do I enjoy airsoft? If the answer is no, it's not for me, then please, like sell the gear you have and find another hobby that really like fulfills you, because
Hmm.
um, there's no use in you doing something that you really don't like. So that actually, like technically, that's also applying to me. If I wake up tomorrow morning and say, okay, I don't enjoy airsoft anymore, I should stop buying new gear.
Yeah.
And but like if I say, okay, I enjoy airsoft, um, and of course, there's always the aspect of like, oh, this thing looks really cool. But if I'm just going after function and seeing if I can, if my gear that I have now works for me and what I'm doing, like the first question I'm asking myself, is there gear that feels uncomfortable or even unsafe?
Hmm.
And if you say yes, okay, there's something that makes me feel unsafe. That could be, for example, you're a beginner, you have goggles, but you don't have some kind of lower face pro. Then I would say change that. That's like the first thing you want to change. If you say, okay, this thing, um, yeah, I would feel safer playing airsoft if I had lower face pro, and then maybe I would be more daring on the field. Maybe I would rush into that building because now I don't have to think about my teeth getting shot out anymore.
Yeah.
Or maybe you say, hey, I I rolled my ankle once. Like it wasn't bad, but still. And so you think, okay, maybe I get some boots. That would be an idea. Um, and so change what makes you feel unsafe. Like that's the first thing to change. That's something I had as an experienced player after like 6, 7, 8 years of playing. I switched from like a cheap plastic bump helmet to an actual one. Like it's still a bump helmet, not like a ballistic helmet, but now I run an obstacle.
Hmm.
Um, why? Because one, if you go with the real one, they have different sizes. And now it fits me properly, and I don't get a headache anymore after like 4 or 5 hours of wearing the helmet.
Hmm.
But the other thing is also at border war, every now and then you are on vehicles, and like they are open top vehicles. You may be sitting like on in the back of the pickup truck, maybe even on the railing or something. And I thought, okay, if I do that, I want an actual bump helmet.
Yeah.
And because if I fall out of that thing, I don't want to hit my head on a rock.
Yeah. I think
And so that's the thing I changed.
Yeah, I think the safety aspect is just so important, and I want to come back to the enjoyment portion though, because I think we sort of laugh in the sense that if you're listening to this podcast, the chances that you don't enjoy airsoft at a fundamental level are pretty slim, right? You probably do, but it's possible that you don't. But one of the ways that I actually think that um, the enjoyment portion as it relates to gear is important to think about is, let's say you're not, because we've all had days where we're not having a good day, right? That's
Oh
fine.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
not enjoying that day of airsoft, but we still enjoy airsoft. At least we think we do, right? Is the question, well, if I buy more gear, I will actually start enjoying airsoft. And I think that's a trap that many people fall into. I know
oh yeah,
I've had this situation for myself where like my replica is not working very well and I'm not enjoying airsoft. And I'm like, okay, if I fix my replica, I'm going to start enjoying airsoft again. And in my case, it turns out that that was actually the case. It's just I was so frustrated by
yeah,
it that was preventing me from having a good time. Once I fixed it, I'm having a great time. But I'm sure, and this is an experience that people have had where it's like, well, I can't hit anyone. I'm going to increase my range, and that means I'll be able to be a sniper, and then I will enjoy airsoft. And you're always changing stuff about airsoft in an effort to try and enjoy it more. And if you're always doing that and it's not changing, perhaps you don't actually enjoy it, right? I think is something
true,
to consider, right? But so I just wanted to
true.
mention that briefly. But I think coming back to this the safety, you said something that's so. I think I've experienced this and felt this too. You were saying like maybe if I get something to protect my teeth, I'll be a little bit more daring on the field, and that's such an important dynamic that I think people don't really take necessarily as seriously as they have to. I mean, I've heard this analogy being said about like the real world military, which is that a helmet makes soldiers feel safe, which helps them do the things that they're going to do. But does it actually really protect them a whole lot? I mean, maybe, maybe not. I'm not an expert, but I've heard that being said. But I've experienced that in airsoft where it's like you put a plate carrier on my chest and I'm no longer afraid of being shot up close in CQB. I'm going through that door, no problem. Right. But if I'm
True,
just wearing my
true.
belt and my torso is exposed and I don't want to get hit in the chest, I'm like, maybe I'll just let somebody else do it for me. Right. Like it's the mind game aspect of it too.
Yeah,
And it's, the safety aspect is, of course, very important. We for many years I didn't believe in lower face pro, and I'm completely converted now. I think there's really no reason you shouldn't use them, especially given how easy they are now with the Delta mics and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. Like, there's really no reason. Um, but as a new player and even as an intermediate player, if you're ever in a situation where you feel either unsafe for sure, but if stuff is uncomfortable, I think we talk about on the show about how like your gear should be comfortable, right? Like if you're chafing,
yeah. It should.
right? Like especially you talk about, and I'm sure this is something you've experienced at border war. Like you're carrying a heavy load for an extended period of time. If everything
Yeah,
is not very comfortable for you, that's going to start hurting pretty quick, right?
yeah. At like my very first border war, a piece of the cummerbund kept poking me like in my lower rib cage on like the back,
Hmm.
and that got annoying. Like it never chafed, but it got really annoying. At some point, I was more focused on pulling it back into position than actually like looking around, taking stock of what's happening around me, like during a patrol or something. And that is like it's a tiny bit of uncomfort. Like it's not a lot,
Hmm.
but that bit could be something that really hinders you in your gameplay. And then you think, oh man, why didn't I see that guy behind the tree there?
Yeah, great point.
And
Because you're
yeah,
focused on the wrong stuff, right? You're focused on that little
yeah,
piece that's digging into your side. That's a great point.
yeah. And with comfort, I mean, it's always the thing. Of course, some people have the great situation that they have some kind of a military or army store close by that actually sells like new modern gear. Like I know Josh from the server. He's got a store relatively close by. Like I think it's like 20 minutes or something, where he can actually go and of course they don't have everything, but they have some things, and he can go like, "Hey, can I try this on?"
Hmm.
And that is something many of us don't have the luxury. But I think that's important. Also, like if your friend, for example, says, "Hey, I have this great new piece of gear," use the opportunity. Ask him, "Hey, can I put that on for one 30-minute game?" Because I think in one 30-minute game, you find out most of the issues with the piece of gear.
Hmm.
Um, like, of course, you got to look at it like closely in the sense of, okay, yeah, this thing is poking a little after 30 minutes. How would it maybe feel after 5, 6 hours? But that is, I think, the best chance if you want to buy something and a friend of yours already has it. Ask them, hey, can I try this on? I mean, it's the same with a gun. You think about buying an AK, and you run into a guy on the field, and he's got an AK, and you ask, hey, cool AK. Uh, what company is that? And they might say that's a Cyma, or that's an LCT, or E&L, or whatever.
Hmm.
And
Right.
you go like, hey, can I shoot that thing? And unless they're like most airsofters are cool about that, they like it if you go like, oh, I admire your gun. Can I like try it out for a few shots? And you shoot it a few times, and then you're like, okay, wow, that thing shoots really good. Is it stock or did you put something into it? And you can get into talking about it. And it's similar with gear. I think I've never met an airsofter who wasn't willing to talk about what kind of gear they're running, because most of us, we've invested a lot of money into it. We're sort
Yeah.
of proud of what we built. And therefore, like with most airsofters, if you ask them, hey, what is that? Are you happy with it? They're going to be really happy to tell you about it and explain to you, yeah, I've got um, private plate carrier or whatever. And they might even let you try it on. Of course, you might try something on that some dude sweated in for the last 4 hours. That's the downside.
Yeah.
But
I think too,
yeah,
like
you
I find that they're also, and I mean I'll speak for myself, but I find that airsofters in general are also very honest about gear that they don't like, that they're not trying to sell you. Right. If they're not trying to
yeah,
if they're trying to sell you something, it's the best thing they've ever seen. Right. But if they're just
of
telling you
course,
about something and you were to say, hey, would you buy this again? If their answer is no, I would not, they will be more than happy to tell you, yeah, you know what? Like, I'm not crazy about this, and this is why. Like, this is what I don't like
yeah,
about it. Uh,
yeah,
because I think we also kind of, for the for lack of a better term, we're kind of watching out for each other. So if we have a bad experience with a manufacturer or a piece of gear or whatever, like we'll share that. Sometimes to a
yeah,
fault. I think we crap on a lot of gear that because of who it is. Like I think about Navrich in particular. Like people crap on his gear all the time, and I mean, for better or
yeah,
for worse, some of their stuff is totally fine, right? But regardless,
absolutely,
I think overall, though, when you talk to someone at your field and you ask them the question, hey, do you like that? If the answer is no, they will also, at the very least be like, it's okay, right? So
yeah,
I totally take your point, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about sort of obviously the enjoyment of the gear and airsoft in general and the safety. Once you've taken care of that for yourself, like what is then the next criteria? Because I mean, those two are
I
not. I don't
think,
want to say self-evidence, but like, what's the next thing you look at?
yeah, I think next up you want to ask yourself, um, do you feel like your gear hinders you in any way, or you are lacking some kind of capability? If the answer to both of those questions is no, then hey, your gear already does the job. But you could maybe say, yeah, well, I've started airsoft and I'm playing at this outdoor field, and I feel like in my sport trousers and my black hoodie, I'm easily visible.
Mhm.
Then you maybe want to get camouflage equipment. Or you've been playing airsoft for 5, 6 years now, did a few Milsim events, and you found this really cool event, and they have the special forces team that is 100% what you want to do. But unfortunately, those guys are exclusively running, I don't know, um, check VZ93 camo. or Polish VZ97. Doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
they're running some specific camo. You're an experienced airsofter. You have gear that works really well for you, but the gear you have hinders you from going to that event and playing that fraction. So you need to change that. And that brings us basically to like the next thing. Okay, my gear hinders me. May it be because of the rule set? Like, oh, my local field lets me play DMR with every gun that can shoot that shoots semi. Like I have it. I could switch it to auto, but at my local field, it's okay if I just stay semi. But at the event, I need a bipod and a big scope.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then you need to buy a bipod and a big scope if you want to play airsoft. Like if you want to play it, if you want to play a DMR at that event,
Mm-hmm.
or you want to buy camouflage gear. So yeah, basically that is the easy type of hindering gear, where it's just okay. I need something specific to fulfill a certain rule. That's more or less, well, that's actually not hindering, it's more lacking the capability, right?
Right, but I mean, I think you're right. Like it's clear. Like this is not a situation where you need to overly critical. They've told you need
Yeah,
X, so if you don't have it, then you need to get it. Right. Same thing for us.
exactly.
Like at our event that we're doing next in August, in order to be an SSW, you need to have a replica of an SSW, like a SAW or Mini Me or whatever. If you have an
Yeah,
M4 with a box mag, that's not good enough, right? So if you want to be
yeah,
SSW, you need to show up with some sort of like LMG squad support weapon replica, etc. So that part is pretty straightforward. I think the part that's more challenging with this is how do you self analyze to understand whether or not your gear is hindering you in some way. And I'll give you an example of this. For many years, I ran my plate carrier with training plates in them, 11 pounds combined, right? 5.5
hmm
pounds of plate. And if you had asked me at the time whether or not this was hindering me in any way, I would say, well, of course not, because my plate carrier is well fitted. It's the proper size for
yeah,
myself. I'm strong enough that I can carry them all day, and it doesn't really bother me. And I can run and do all the things that I want.
yeah,
But the first time I took off the plate carrier for a game and I wasn't carrying it, suddenly I was much faster. Everything was easier, right? It was a bit like a cheat
yeah.
code. So if you'd asked me before, I wouldn't have said it was hindering me. But now, looking at it more objectively, I was like, I realized actually it was hindering me. How do you look at that yourself?
That is a really tough one because um, basically there's three options. One, you'll never figure it out.
Hmm.
Like you just keep continuing how you're doing and you don't figure that one out. The other option is you figure it out because you try something new. That could be you're traveling to an event and you are restricted on how much cargo you can take with you because you're going by train or by plane or whatever.
Hmm.
And you ask one of your friends, "Hey, can you lend me something there?" Like it's basically luck. You just try something new out because of circumstances or whatever. And the third one requires introspection and really thinking about like, is it like is it really like how does it affect me what I'm carrying? Is it effective? Is there something I could do better? And actually a really easy question you can ask yourself is basically, am I carrying too much stuff? Like get on a scale, weigh yourself, then get on it with your airsoft gear. Because that really tells you like, whoa, okay, I'm carrying like 15 kilos of gear. How did that happen? I only have my gun and then the plate carrier and then a few mags and a little bit of water. How
Hmm.
did that add up to 15 kilos? And then start thinking about like, do I really need all that stuff? Like in your case, you said your plates were 11 pounds, that's like 5 kilos.
Yeah, approximately. Yeah.
Like basically, if you got rid of the plates, you could carry the same amount of stuff, but are 5 kilos lighter.
Yeah.
And that's um, that's it's a harsh question to ask yourself. Okay, am I carrying unnecessary stuff? Like, for example, last border war, I carried a bunch of camouflage netting into the field, which, like, yeah, okay, the camo net, how much does it weigh? Like 200 grams? Yeah, well, if you've got 3 or 4 of them, you're over a kilo.
Hmm.
Like, okay, 200 grams would be 800 grams, but like
I get your point. Yeah.
different sizes, etc. Like, you carry a kilo of stuff that you don't necessarily need. And so it is a harsh question because most of us think like, okay, yeah, I'm only carrying stuff that I really need. But that's, I think, the best place to start thinking about, okay, is my gear hindering me? Is the weight?
How have
Um,
you experienced your own gear hindering you? Like aside from the 800 grams of camo netting,
how did I experience my gear hindering? I think a big one was Randy. Yeah, well, the cheap plate carrier I had in the beginning, where everything constantly kept getting loose, that was hindering me.
mhm,
With the cheap belt kit, um, it constantly kept shifting around my body, and suddenly, like, my pistol was basically in my center and not on my right hip anymore, and stuff, and everything was in the wrong place. Um, yeah, what else did I have? Oh yeah, backpack fixed to the back of the plate carrier. Where at some point I realized, well, wait, every time I want something from that backpack, I need someone to get it out of there.
yeah.
And like in a day game, that's usually not that big of an issue because okay, I'm in respawn every 10, 15 minutes anyway. But at like a Milsim event, I need something from that backpack. Let's say it's starting to rain. While my teammate gets that out of there, basically 2 people cannot pull security anymore. Like, sure, I can stand there and scan or kneel there and scan while my buddy gets it back out, but whatever my buddy is doing back there is annoying me. Like,
Mhm.
like I feel someone going on my gear, etc. So I cannot fully focus on security. It's better if both of us can access our backpacks ourselves, because then one person can focus on security and the other can get the stuff. So what else annoyed me? Um, oh yeah, that was one like where it really went into ergonomics. Second belt kit, good belt kit by like a reputable company, fit well, was nice to wear. Then I lost 15 kilograms,
Mhm.
and suddenly I couldn't get it any tighter anymore, and it was again moving and wobbling around. Um, so yeah, that's stuff where gear annoys you.
And
Also
that's a tough
overheating.
one. That's a tough one that you're talking about because, generally speaking, like for most people who are, losing trying to lose weight, like I mean, it's a good thing, right? But then
Yeah,
you lose all this weight and now your kit doesn't fit anymore. What do you do about that? Because it's like, well, crap, now I've got to go spend even more money, try and offload the belt to someone or sell it to someone so I can get something smaller. And if you're anything like me, then the concern is, but what if I grow back into it and then I have to go back to the other one? So I end up
yeah,
keeping both. I did that with my
yeah,
airsoft kit for years because when I started playing airsoft, shortly around that time, like I weighed I was super overweight for my own body. Like I was close on, uh, I was like 215 pounds, which is close on almost 100 kilos, right? For me,
yeah,
which is quite high. And very quickly, I lost approximately 15, 16 kilos, something like that, right? So like almost like over 35 pounds. And so I had all my old airsoft trousers that still fit me, and then all the new ones I had to get because those ones were way too big. but I kept both of
Yeah.
them because I'm like, well, what happens if I put on the weight again? I don't want to get rid of it and have to buy them again. So that's a very real, unfortunate problem
Yeah,
to have. But I mean,
absolutely.
it's yeah.
With one of my belts, I actually was really lucky because basically I couldn't get the belt any tighter, but then I just cut off some molly loops on the belt, and now I could get it tighter. And now that I've gained a little bit of weight again, it's not a big deal. I just have like two less molly loops that I wasn't
Mhm,
using anyway. So sometimes you can modify your kit. So you don't need to buy anything new, just like
mhm,
maybe cut off two molly loops. There's actually, like, for example, if you start to gain a lot of weight, for some types of cummerbunds, you can get like extenders that can make them longer. Um, Also, I mean, a lot of if you go with real steel kit, a lot of it is actually made to be worn over thick winter clothes, so that soldiers, when they are in some kind of Arctic or mountain deployment or whatever, they can wear that kit over like thick layers of clothing. And so there is actually um, a lot of room to play with.
mhm.
And that, like, with my Tasmanian Tiger Mark II, like, I'm not really a small guy, and still I could wear a thick jacket underneath it, and I would still have room in that thing.
So we talked about sort of the hindering gear, and so talked about like the stuff that you need to buy, the
Yeah,
stuff that really is holding you back in some respect because it's not really suiting you in particular. But then you also talked on, we talked about like removing right the extra kit, but there's also the piece around lacking capabilities, right? And
yeah,
I touched on this earlier, but for some people, lacking capabilities means, oh well, I can't seem to hit anyone at long range, so I've got to upgrade my spring, right? Or I need a bolt action rifle because that's what's going to allow me to be more capable on the field. But that's not really what we mean. What you mean when we talk about lacking
yeah,
capabilities, right?
yeah. Because while, yeah, sure, with a DMR or a BSR, you might have more range, um, but in the end, I have seen, like in the last 11 years, I've seen very few situations where it really came down to rain.
Hmm.
I was like, Milsim events, there is a big, wide open space between, and like there's a clearing in the woods. It's 80 meters across, and you have people on both sides, and one of them has, I don't know, an LMG with 2.5 joules and a really good fine-tuned Polestar engine in there or something, and they're running 0.43 gram BBs in their LNG or something. So like it's very rarely down to range. It's more often down to positioning. So that's not really a gear question.
Yeah.
It's more a I'd say it's something that comes with experience, and it's something that comes with trying stuff. Like, oh, okay, I can't really hit that guy over there, but maybe I can manage to keep his head down long enough for me to move up 10, 20 meters. Like, fire a salvo in his direction, and as long as he's got his head down, run over there into the next cover.
Yeah.
Like stuff like this, or work together with a teammate. Hey, I'm gonna pin that guy, and you're gonna move up and try to flank him or something.
Hmm.
So that there are situations that you will not solve with gear, but with skill and with teamwork.
So, what are situations that you solve with gear? Like, what are these capabilities you're referring to?
Um, Someone barricaded in a room, like in CQB. I mean, I think we've all seen those videos of like special forces room clearing, etc., etc., etc. And then I think back to stuff that I've heard from like uh, older people I know who did their military service during the Cold War. They were like, room clearing. You mean grenades, right?
Hmm.
like why why do I even have to think about how do I clear this room? Well, basically I can throw a nade or two in there and the room is cleared. Especially with like rules on most airsoft fields. Like I don't know how it is for you over there, but for example, here at most fields, if you're talking about like regular sized rooms, the rules usually says if a grenade goes off in that room, everybody in the room is out.
Yeah. Same.
So only if like you're talking about like I don't know some big like industrial
Warehouse
hall or
or yeah.
something, yeah, where
Yeah.
stuff like
Exactly
that.
the same. Exactly
And
the same here. Yeah.
yeah, so that is something where you can definitely change your capabilities by getting gear. And some might say, okay, that's pay to win. It is. It really is. But it's also, um, I mean, it is something that you cannot get in any other way. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
personally, if I were playing at a field and the rules said, oh, yeah, stones are grenades, and if you throw a stone in a room, then everybody in the room is out, I would think they are making fun of me.
Hmm.
Because, like, sure you could make do that, and maybe I would do it if I were playing with like 10 friends and we were just having fun. But honestly, stones, they're lying around everywhere. That's like infinite grenades for everybody.
Hmm.
Okay, we're putting away our airsoft guns, we're just throwing stones until someone gets hit in the head.
But there's also some capabilities because we've talked about grenades a lot, and I think I totally agree with you. Like there you
Yeah,
cannot replicate that in any other way. But there's also capabilities that I think specifically about you in a recon role, for example, at border war. There are certain capabilities that likely gear will provide you, like for example, for observation that or radios. I mean, we talked about this, I believe, last time,
yeah,
right? Like that you kind of in your specific role, you probably can't get away without having those things, right?
yeah. Like radios are absolutely essential. Like, um, unfortunately, I can't go to Border War this year because I start a new job. Um, but in general, like for the past year, Josh from the server, he's been working on a radio repeater, which we can place up somewhere high up so that we have radio coverage on the entire field. Because it goes even a step further. What use is there in us being a recon team if we can't even reach our company commander?
Mhm.
Like, there's radios definitely give you a capability that you wouldn't have otherwise. And sometimes not even a regular radio is enough because if you're on this side of the hill and they are on that side of the hill, there is no line of sight. You cannot communicate with each other.
Mhm.
And yeah, what else? Observation equipment can be useful, like yeah, scopes, thermal cameras. I would also put night vision in that role if you're talking about night games. Um, those are capabilities you like the Mark One eyeball doesn't do that. You cannot see infrared with your eyes.
Mhm.
Um, that definitely gives you an edge, but it's still something you need to train with. It's still something you need to use regularly, and it's still something you need to like know how to use. For example, the first time I had a thermal camera with me, here in Germany we can't really have thermal scopes. And therefore I had a handheld thermal. And if you turn that thing off, it needs like 30 seconds to reboot. Like if you want to turn it back on. Um, but that is like maybe too long. Like you want to get in your position and you want to do a quick scan and then you want to put it away again or something.
Mhm.
So waiting those 30 seconds, that just stops your flow. Um, so I always kept it in standby mode with the result that in the morning of the second day, when I really needed it, the batteries were empty.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to still know how does my gear work.
Yeah.
Same with night vision. Like if the first time you're wearing night vision is at some big milsim event, um, you will probably still do better than someone who does not have night vision at all. But it's going to be hard for you to navigate, especially if it's just a mono night vision and not binos, um, because you don't have that 3D vision. And um, so, yeah, gear can give you capabilities, but it comes back to you need to train with it. You need to know how to use it.
It's interesting too because we had this conversation on Discord. People were talking about, like digital night vision versus analog night vision, and and like Jordan will say, well, if you're going to use digital night vision, you're better off buying a flashlight, right, and a really good flashlight. And so the capability we're talking about here is, well, being able to operate in darkness, right? And so one
Yeah,
solution is night vision, another is digital night
yeah.
vision, and a third again is a flashlight. We could talk thermals or whatever. How do you know which solution is the best one to give you the capability you're looking for?
I mean, best case scenario is, of course, trying it out. Like
Hmm.
before I bought slash built my night vision set, a buddy of mine had already done so. And I tried his and I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool. Like, I also want to be able to do that. But if you can't do that, um, I'd say talk with people who don't want to sell it to you. Like you have, of course, like on the Discord, you have a bunch of people who have a vast amount of airsoft knowledge. Like, I mean, if we compare just like, I don't know, the 10 most active users on the Discord, we would probably get over 100, maybe even over 200 years of airsoft experience. Um, so talking to people, asking them, hey, what works for you? I have this specific problem. I run into the issue that I need to carry a bunch of stuff. And when I put it in my plate carrier, it just feels really awkward. So they might give you the solution of, hey, get a belt kit or something. Like the second best thing after trying out different solutions yourself is ask people. And then if you have the answer, you might be able to look for a chance to try that out. Like,
Hmm.
um, I might not be able to get myself a normal night vision, a digi night vision, and like really expensive flashlights. I maybe don't have the money for that. But once someone tells me, hey, outside from really hardcore milsim event, a flashlight will do the job. And I have a buddy who recently got a flashlight. Well, I'm talking to that buddy. I'm going to ask him, hey, can I try that? Um, I don't know how it is in Canada, but here in the EU, you have the option of returning stuff that you ordered online for 14 days. That's like your legal customer protection, where in those first 14 days, you don't even have to give a reason. You just basically say, okay, I didn't like it. And you can
Hmm.
send it back and you get the money back. Not store credit, but you do actually get the money back. So there's always the option of buying something and trying it out.
Hmm.
Of course, there's a provision that like you can't like get it completely scratched up and
Right.
say I
Yeah. Of
don't like it,
course.
because
Yeah.
obviously you've used it. That's more than just testing it out. You can't take a pair of new hiking boots and go on a 50-kilometer hike with that,
Yeah.
like
Of
two
course.
days. Um, but like in a reasonable amount of time and like use, you can try it out and say, okay, I like it or don't like it. So that is a third option what you can do. I hear about a solution to my problem. Well, I have identified my problem. I hear about a solution for the problem. And then maybe I order something, try it out. And if it's not for me, I send it back. Or maybe I'm trying it out and I figure, hey, okay, chest rig, really cool. But this particular chest rig has an X harness and I don't like the feel of the X harness, how it runs across my back. Okay, now I know I want a chest rig, but maybe with an H harness.
Hmm.
So it comes back to trying stuff out, I'd say.
Yeah. So let's say that, you're looking at your gear and you're not lacking any capabilities and your gear is not
Yeah,
holding you back in any way. You don't have any sort of like safety issues with your gear or discomfort issues,
yeah.
and you're still enjoying airsoft. So then what do you do?
Um,
You just
Now I
play.
have two options. Either I play exactly like for this year, and currently, I'm gonna have to do a lot of heavy lifting in the second year because my goal for this year was to spend more money on tickets for airsoft games than I do on airsoft gear.
Whoops.
And I mean, I did hold myself back this year when it came to gear, but still, I bought something with dual use um, because I'm going on a camping trip with my partner, and I thought, oh, that's the perfect time to buy myself a UF Pro like striker pants in OD, because obviously the one in camouflage they would look silly.
Hmm.
But I want really good pants for the trip, and then I also was like, oh, and I could buy two combat shirts in OD, and suddenly I had spent a lot of money on clothes that I didn't really need. And like, yeah, that's something you realize, okay, my gear is working for me. Use it. Get the most out of it. Don't spend a bunch of money on stuff you don't need, and then you can't buy tickets to the field anymore.
Hmm.
Like, literally, that's an issue I ran into in the past when I was younger, didn't have money. Like, I bought yeah, I bought the belt kit because I wasn't happy with the vest.
Yeah.
And sure, with the belt kit, it worked better, absolutely. But the $100 I spent on that, I could have spent on 2 days of playing airsoft.
Yeah. That's a good point.
But if you really want something new, then I'd say go for whatever you think is cool. But don't forget what we talked about. Like, try it out if someone else has it. Um, you can watch reviews. I mean, there is a bunch of reviews on airsoft stuff or military gear, etc. Just keep in mind, is this person trying to sell it to me? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes producers have really in-depth videos of their stuff, which can be really cool, but they will never really mention the downsides. Or
Yeah.
also with brand sponsorships, could be the same. Like, a YouTuber may have gotten this super cool new airsoft gun and does a review on it, how amazing it is, after having it taken it out of the box and played 1 day with it. And due to their contract, they can't say things they didn't like about it. So, do you really trust that review? Or maybe you watch a review by some small unknown channel, like just some guy who films with his phone, but you see the same airsoft gun, it's beaten up, and he's going like, oh yeah, I've played this thing for 6 months now. And I gotta say, apart from the hop up, I'm really happy or something.
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to internet reviews, keep in mind, do they want to sell you something?
Yeah. Absolutely. But I think, overall, like your process that you're describing, I think makes so much sense. And it's it's important. I mean, like again, like if you're just wanting to buy something because it's cool, fill your boots. Like we always say,
Oh,
like just do
absolutely.
whatever, right?
Airsoft
But
is a fashion show.
yeah, but I think if you're trying
Like
to maximize, yeah, exactly, right? Like if you're trying to
the
maximize
t-shirts.
the money, yeah. Well, if you're trying to maximize the money you're putting into airsoft so you get the most out of both your gear but also to your point like airsoft events, we look at the events that we went to like in the States and stuff like tickets are not cheap, right? And so if you're looking at having to spend several $100s to attend just to buy tickets to play airsoft at this big
Yeah.
event, and on top of that you've got your travel, and on top of that you have
Oh
thousands of
yeah.
like it can get out of hand really quickly. So it
Yeah.
makes sense for people to think about critically um what they're gonna how they're going to look at their kit, and having a framework like the one we talked about can really help some people sort
Hmm.
of get organized in their thinking
Yeah.
around, do I really need this and what do I prioritize first? And of course, enjoyment, yes, but then safety before everything else, and as we discussed the rest of it, right?
Yeah. It's also like, I mean, you've mentioned it earlier, buy once, try once.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, sure, you can buy like some really high class gear and it just is not right for you. Like a friend of mine, for example, he just does not like UF Pro pants. Like, he's the only person I know who's like, I don't like UF Pro pants because for him, the pockets are just in the wrong places. He does not like the way that their pockets are placed.
Hmm.
So they're not the real right pants for him, obviously. But for me, if I think back with like the surplus pants I bought and then the cheap airsoft pants I bought, if I add all of those together, I'm at what I'm paying for a pair of UF Pro pants if I get them on sales.
Yeah, exactly right.
So instead of buying all those cheap pants, I should have waited a bit, found the Youth Pro pants somewhere on sale, and then bought those. The first pair of Youth Pro pants I bought has lasted me now for 5 or 6 years. And the only thing that's giving me issues on them is that the mesh on the inside of the knee pads is now starting to be worn through. After 5 years, that's something that you can easily fix with a bit of thread.
Hmm.
Like, absolutely quality gear can really make a difference and save you money in the long run, but it's a big investment. And it sort of comes back to trying it out. Like, okay, pants, shirts are sometimes a bit hard to try out because even if you have a buddy who has that pair of pants and he's willing to let you try them out, well, he might be 6'2" and you are 5'7", and also he weighs 250 pounds, like 110 kilos or something, and you are significantly smaller. Like,
Yeah.
if you try his pants on, you won't like them because they're in the wrong size. So trying it on also has its limits, but in general, comes back to listen to people. Well, first of all, identify your issue. That's like the real important thing. Like what we talked about earlier, identify why do you need something. Um, I mean, sure, you can say I need it because it's cool. Absolutely, that's
Yeah.
completely fair. Um, and then if you've identified that need, then look at it from the okay, what solves that need? Is it okay? I need a pair of pants because at that event I cannot wear multicam. Okay, now what type of pants do I buy? Um, I, for example, have like a cheap pair of like BDU style multicam pants because every now and then I'm at an event where I have to wear multicam. But that's like maybe once every 2 years or something. And so I don't
Yeah.
see why I should put the money for Youth Pro pants in multicam in there when I wear them once every 2 years.
Absolutely.
Um, but that's like you look at it from the okay, how do I fill that need? I need to buy that pair of pants. Then I think about it. Okay, are they in heavy use? Are they something I'm gonna wear every time I go out airsofting? Like I wear my Pencard Green Zone Youth Pro pants. I basically wear them for every day game I play. So obviously for that, I'm gonna buy a good pair of pants because they will be used like at least once a month. Well, not currently, but
But I
hopefully
mean,
starting in August, I get to
every
play.
time you play, right? Every
Yeah,
single time. It's
yeah,
like I think about people who spend, like our community talking about buying like real night vision, right? Which in Canada is very expensive.
yeah.
You're looking at
Oh
least
yeah,
three
here
thousand
too.
dollars, maybe more. And it's like, guys, you play a night game that's actually dark, maybe twice, three times a year, four times a year, maybe, and the field has
Yeah,
floodlights. So, but also you're wearing $60 pants, right? So maybe you just flip your priorities, like buy really good
yeah,
pants that you're not blowing out every couple of weeks because you're wearing those at every single game, right? And I think again, like it comes down to what we've been talking about, what you mentioned, sort of like looking at it sort of objectively, like what is it that you need more of right now, right? And
Yeah,
yes, like you could say, well, I need the night vision capability. Yeah, but you also probably need gear that before even you get to the capability portion, need gear that sort of supports your best play and also, covers
absolutely. Yeah,
your rear end as much as possible, right? Like that should be your number one priority before the rest of it. So, I appreciate you coming on to talk about this because I think people having a framework to logically think about how they prioritize where they invest their money when it comes to buying new gear outside of just wanting it, I think is important. And it's not something that really, um, you know, a lot of people think about from a like a logical standpoint. Like not many people will sit down and come up with a flow chart to work there to work through.
yeah,
But it is something that's super helpful, right? So, Ambo, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to me about this today.
absolutely. It was a pleasure. Um, I'm looking forward to Belgium.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
That's going
So
to be fun.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening in at time of recording in actually in exactly 2 weeks' time,
Yeah,
Ambo and myself, along with Tullen, Huck, Zenithor, and Bench, are going to be meeting up in Belgium for a little bit of airsoft for the day, which is going to be
yeah,
super super exciting. Our first official European and Foreign Legion meetup, so
yeah.
it's super
Right.
exciting
Yeah,
times. Yeah.
it's
Well,
going to be
until
fun.
then, Ambo, I will see you in a couple of weeks. And to everyone
Yes.
listening, thank you so much for
Have a nice
listening.
afternoon.
And we'll talk to you later. Take care.